Welcome back to the Select Start Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ace. Joining me are the usual suspects, Big Baller Ed, Kosher Killer, Nyes in the house. How we doing, fellas?
Doing good.
Week 11 is in the books. We have a ton of injuries to talk about and just a lot to talk about, actually. The fantasy football year is winding down. Here's the deal. The last 2 weeks, YouTube's been hating on us, but we can upload now. So we're back in the game. We're back to our normal upload schedule. So that's cause for celebration. What you missed, though, the Taysom Hill talk. There were some interesting takes here. Without saying too much, do you guys want to speak on the Taysom Hill situation in a nutshell, just to kind of get it on record here? I'll start with you, Nye.
You know what? I've been banging the Taysom Hill drum since the offseason. I've been pumping him up. I don't know what you're talking about. This is all I've been speaking on this.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill from the beginning. What are you talking about, bro? No, I thought he played well. I thought he played pretty well for it being his first start in the NFL. Fantasy wise, you're stoked if you have Taysom Hill on your team. Probably not as stoked if you played him at tight end this weekend and you're in an ESPN league and now you have to kind of find a way to roster him at quarterback. But
awkward.
What's up?
So
that
was ESPN shade. That's all. Please continue.
So yeah, I thought he played well. Fantasy wise, he was a top 10 quarterback, and that was definitely I don't want to say surprising, but it was nice to see considering he's worked so hard, to be in that position. It was nice to see, everybody who rostered Taysom Hill benefit from his success.
Oh yeah, they're loving life. Big Baller Ed, you're our resident Saints fan, and you just weren't having it. What's good, man?
I stick to myself. I stick to my guns, and I don't back down from it. Taysom Hill is one of those classic, you knew fantasy-wise you'd be fine. Everybody knew. That's why he was so hyped. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, the hype paid off for you guys this week. And congratulations. Atlanta really played an awful game of football. Bounce back next week, Taysom Hill's still going to be usable. Bounce back the next week, Atlanta, he's still going to be usable. Honestly, he's probably going to be a great fantasy option for you guys all week long. But I can't pretend like I'm excited about watching Taysom Hill throw these floopy little ducks up in the air and hope that Michael Thomas just goes all pro and catches everything. It's going to work. It's fine.
Hey,
but
at least somebody's showing Michael Thomas some love.
I can't get too excited about a guy who, he's got 1 week under his belt, and it was against the best matchup. And he finished with, in our league, 19 fantasy points. In NFL fantasy leagues, he finished with 24. This is barely breaking the plane of where you're expecting a fantasy quarterback to finish at, guys. This is, I heard a lot of Lamar Jackson or Taysom Hill's matchup, guys. Matchup. I
like that call. You know what? You're keeping that same energy, and we love that. We love it. Well, a certain situation we're going to monitor. I got all the receipts. I have all the receipts. It's a situation we're going to monitor.
I'll formally apologize to Taysom Hill for,
Please. Please. Somebody.
You put it into the air. Drew Brees getting hurt is on you. So, you brought this to fruition. It looked weird coming out of his hand. I'll give you that. It definitely did. And there were a few that probably should have been picked off. But I'm interested to see, where he goes into next week, playing Denver. And he has an advantageous, fantasy schedule, until Drew Brees comes back. So, this might be something that, ends up turning him into a starting quarterback come next year.
Taysom Hill, I think the hype is real. Just a little bit.
Nah, fantasy-wise, it definitely is real.
I want to hop off something that Big Baller said with the Lamar Jackson comparison. With both, and we're going to get to them in injuries, but with both Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins being placed on the COVID reserve list, that may open up a little bit more of the running game for Lamar Jackson this week. So you might want to keep that in consideration if you're dealing with that situation too.
Yeah,
because that's going to open him to being a bigger fantasy threat too.
I have the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and I welcome that.
I think it's
Lamar
going to be
Jackson
terrible. I think it's going to be terrible
all
for
game.
Baltimore. I think it's going to be terrible for Baltimore come Thursday.
Kosher, you mentioned COVID list. Do you want to just briefly go through some of the major injuries?
Yeah, Myles Garrett on the Browns stays on COVID reserve for one more week. I just mentioned Ingram and Dobbins from the Ravens. Adam Thielen from the Vikings is on the COVID reserve list. Some other injuries, y'all mentioned Joe Burrow. He's done for the year, the torn ACL and MCL. I do not have the heart to watch it. Richie Incognito for the Raiders is done for the year after having foot surgery. What do y'all think the effect his injury is going to have on guys like Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs?
I will defer to Big Baller on this one.
To be really honest with you guys, that game, the Raiders can't say that it seemed like they really missed a beat. They were really airing it out, and the passing game didn't really seem to suffer. Josh Jacobs didn't really get going too explosively at any point during the game. He did get a touchdown, saved you some fantasy production, but looking at what we can expect from the Raiders, they've been playing kind of consistently in the passing game for most of this season. It's been a little bit up and down with some of their options, but for the most part, there's a reason that this team has such a good record. There's a reason that they were able to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. If you can get after the quarterback, you'll get past this line. That's always been the case. But if you're playing against a team that doesn't have elite pass rushing up front, I don't think that you're going to see too much of a drop off from the Oakland Raiders, from Derek Carr, and from Nelson Aguilar and Darren Waller. These passing options are legit.
Upside wise, are we looking at Nelson Aguilar as a better upside play than a guy like Josh Jacobs? Because I almost feel like he's a better upside play.
Yeah, and I think game script, game flow has been getting the Raiders to throw the ball in the air, and we know that Carr is comfortable throwing to Aguilar, so that game script aspect of it, I think, gives him that higher ceiling and makes him, I think, a more reliable play.
You're starting to see Booker a little bit more. You're starting to see them rotate him in a little bit more, and with the game scripts being in the favor of throwing, John Gruden wants to throw the football anyway. So, I just think Nelson Aguilar has upside written all over him.
Yeah, just from what I've seen from the Raiders throughout the last couple of weeks, absolutely. They have been moving Booker in, which is just reducing Jacobs' upside. And even in games with negative game scripts or positive game scripts, whatever you want to say it for the context of passing the ball, the Raiders just want to pass the ball. They've been doing this consistently. There's no reason that I see for them to stop. It looks to be what they want to do.
Yeah, they certainly look legit. I was saying before we started the recording, who could have pictured Nelson Aguilar being like their number one receiver there? I know they had Tyrell Williams coming back, right? They lost him early. There was high hopes for Henry Ruggs. Bryan Edwards, the rookie, there was high hopes for all those guys. Here comes Nelson Aguilar out of the clutches.
Yeah, and we also talked about Hunter Renfrow in the preseason.
Hunter Renfrow,
another guy.
I stand for him hard. A lot of interesting storylines with that Las Vegas Raider team. They're playing well. I mean, down the stretch, they have some pretty favorable matchups too. I would favor them 5 out of their last 6 games. They have a dicey matchup with Indy in week, I think, 13 or 14. But they're looking like they're going to make the playoffs. They look like a playoff team. If you watch the Red, they look like a playoff team. They'll be in it to the end. Probably good to invest in some Raider guys now, especially if you're, your playoff picture is kind of getting a little bit clearer, maybe a good move to go there. Joe Burrow, just devastating stuff. Devastating. ACL, MCL, you mentioned it, Nye, just being just one of the more gruesome kind of injuries, right up there with the Dak Prescott injuries. Man, where do we start with this? Nye.
Well, obviously, with the injury, it's a serious injury. We probably won't see Joe Burrow to start the season next year. But fantasy-wise, I think when you're looking at a guy like Joe Burrow, he's a replaceable guy. I think depending on what's on your waiver wire right now, you can probably go out there and get a Tua. You can probably go get maybe a Kirk Cousins well, maybe not Kirk Cousins this week because we don't know if Adam Thielen is going to play. But there's some guys out there who you can scoop up off the waiver wire who can give you a week or two. To kind of replace what Joe Burrow was giving you. But for those of you out there who held Joe Burrow's passing targets like T. Higgins and I'm missing on my guy's name right now.
Tyler Boyd, AJ
Yeah,
Green.
Tyler Boyd. I was about to say Travis Boyd. Tyler Boyd, AJ Green. They're going to suffer. They're going to suffer because I just don't think any of these quarterbacks on roster are going to be accurate enough in order to move the needle on a lot of these guys.
Interesting situation. I own Tyler Boyd in our league, and obviously, he had that connection with Joe Burrow from the jump. Man, I'm kind of hesitant. I'm still kind of assessing the situation. Big Baller, any thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a disappointing situation to hear about. You think first thought is obviously downgrade everybody. Tyler Boyd, I'm kind of interested in just to see if he continues to be kind of the main target from what we saw last week. But that could also just be he's the guy I remember from last year. Remember Finley did come in last year, took over for Dalton towards the end of the season before he also went down, brought Brandon Allen onto the field. It's been tough 2 years for Cincy quarterbacks. I'm curious about Gio too. My instinct is to just fade him, even drop him, but I don't see this offense really moving the ball much. He could become like a J.D. McKissick of sorts, a James White without the yardage upside of just getting peppered with targets. So there might be a PPR floor there if that's something that you need if you're desperate for running back help.
For me as a Tyler Boyd owner, if there's any glimmer of hope for you guys, looking at the schedule, next week they got the Giants. I think he's a must start in that game. The Giants really aren't going to apply that much pressure on a new quarterback. I think, he's going to be able to retain like a decent floor. So I think next week he's good to go. I think you're probably fading him against Miami. After that, he's got Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Houston in week 16. That might be a matchup you're interested in because they've also been pretty awful. 17, they've got Baltimore, depending on where they're standing. If they have much to play for, you might want to gauge that situation. Tyler Boyd is probably, in my opinion, your best bet just because he's been the more consistent, skill player in that system for the past couple of years. But still, it's a loss, and it's, something to definitely think about if you have any of those skill players. Man, if you had T. Higgins, like if you're in a sleeper league and you had T. Higgins and you took him out to your taxi squad, like you're probably feeling like crap now, you're like, dang.
I wouldn't underestimate like the morale of losing a Joe Burrow. Like it's going to turn this team into a bad team. Like to take that blow, to have your franchise rookie quarterback go down, I just don't see this team getting any better.
There's going to have to be some tough kind of like conclusions and decisions made for the Boyd owners. I'm literally staring at him right now. As it stands, he's 19, wide receiver 19, and this is with only 3 touchdowns. I mean, wide receiver 19 in our league, according to our ranks, with only 3 touchdowns. Like he's been a very, very dependable player. Trust me, like I have no problem throwing him out there. He's like kind of like the steady. So yeah. That is the goal going forward for you, Tyler Boyd owners, to try to figure out how you're going to replicate that steady, how you're going to find that peace of mind, how you're going to try to trade him and unload him and try to sell him to somebody else. Like, we'll see.
A final point that I want to throw in here right before we move on is on what you just said, trying to find that replication. You probably don't have a choice. You probably are stuck holding on to Tyler Boyd and hoping that you get all the way to week 14. That's the only matchup that I would even consider playing him in. I'm not playing against New York, and I'm not playing against Miami. Week 15 is Pittsburgh. I'm not interested at all. And week 14 against Dallas, I'll be honest, I don't have any faith in Cincinnati being able to move the ball at all without Joe Mixon on the field, splitting carries between P. Ryan and Bernard. And we've seen when they can't move the ball, when it's 3 and outs, when you can't hold the ball, your defense gets tired, the other team just holds on to it. And if you don't even have the ball in your hands, you're not putting up numbers that are worth anything.
Yeah, everybody becomes matchup plays.
Yeah, for real. Hey, the sadness. We alluded to it last week, and it definitely manifested in my fantasy week. We had a couple more injuries. Rex Burkhead, he was turning out to be a nice little story, for owners of him in leagues and in, their backfield. Goes out with the ACL injury. Coach, you want to talk to us more about that injury, man?
Yeah, he is done for the year. I believe also another ACL tear. That means he may be looking at firing up guys like James White. that may mean that you're looking at some of the other running backs in New England's committee, because New England's going to still keep rotating. They're not going to stop running the ball, but question is who's going to get the bulk of those carries and who's going to get targets out of the backfield?
That's a great question. Like, what's up with the Damian Harris situation? Like, wasn't he a thing at one point in time? Sony Michel's out. He's on IR. You know, obviously that's all
Sonny
news.
Michel is designated to return from IR.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay. That's great news. If you're a Sony Michel owner, like, is it something
No.
you even stop to pause for?
No. Are you is there a Sony Michel owner out there? Like, are you holding
There is
on to
in our
Sony
league.
Michel?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I think with the loss of Rex Burkhead, there may be a hold, like a role there to kind of fill. I just think, I think it makes Damian Harris more valuable. Honestly, I think he gets more of that workload going forward. We saw Rex Burkhead, near the goal line in those situations. I think it becomes Damian Harris. I think he's the guy to kind of own in that situation.
That's not a bad point. I mean, who else are going to give the ball to? I mean, James White, he's been a reliable option through the years.
Yeah, you'll see him take more of the passing
game. He's probably
game.
got the best hands as a receiver out of the backfield, out of that group right now.
Yeah, you'll
he's
see him take.
He's probably their J.D. McKissick.
No, I don't think he's as versatile. I think J.D. McKissick may be a better runner, but I think you'll see James White fill the vacuum in the passing game that was left by Rex Burkhead. But
hey, cool. Let's talk about some top performers, guys. I'm going to start with Antonio Gibson, because my man Big Baller Ed was shading him. He called him Jordan Howard light last week. He went for 16 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, the game script was heavy run, like you mentioned, Knight. They obviously look like they just kind of want to get out of there. Ron Rivera has no problem running the ball, which I like. He had a great game. So for you owners out there, I mean, another one. Demir Byrd, 6 catches for 132 yards, had a touchdown. That wide receiver skill position is kind of like week to week, like who's Cam Newton going to lock up on. He was the recipient clearly. And then another guy I've been kind of bullish on, like historically, I got to give him his roses. I ain't no hater. Melvin Gordon, man, 15 carries for 84 yards, couple of touchdowns. They really had no other options on that offense. Smart football tells you to try to establish the run that catered to his skill set, and he made the most of it. Guys, I'll throw it back at you guys. Top performers, Kosher.
And I got a Cal poster up here, and I got to give my roses to 2 former Cal Bears. On the offensive side of the ball, I want to give it to Keenan Allen. 16 catches on 19 targets, 145 yards. He found the end zone. Just a monster game. He's developing really good chemistry with Justin Herbert. Just what an outstanding game. And defensively, on Big Baller Ed's New Orleans Saints, Cameron Jordan, 3 sacks, 4 tackles. Atlanta's offensive line was awful on Sunday. They allowed 8 sacks, and Jordan got 3 of them. So those are the 2 guys I really wanted to highlight in my top performers.
I gotta give a shout out to Kosher though. Thank you for talking about my man Keenan Allen. I was banging the drum. Y'all can go back on my Twitter. It's one of my few tweets. I was saying hashtag free Keenan Allen, hashtag get this man a quarterback, hashtag better than Mike Evans if you guys get him a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel a little bit vindicated. No guff to Mike Evans. He's having a great season. He's still putting up great numbers. Still Tampa Bay's leading receiving option, like historically. But Keenan Allen absolutely stepping it up after they trashed him a little bit in the offseason.
Yes, supremely underrated. Like he could we have that conversation of Keenan Allen being the best wide receiver in the league?
Keenan Allen drum corps here tonight. Big baller.
Hopping into my top performers, I'm going to start it off with Deshaun Watson. He threw for 2 touchdowns, rushed for an extra touchdown as well, 36 rushing yards, and threw for 344 yards. Had a fantastic afternoon. Bouncing off that to Robert Woods, he went 12 for 130 and had a touchdown. Almost had that second touchdown at the end of the half. That was, I know if you guys saw it as the Rams rushed forward to try and catch up to him and spike the ball at the 1 second so they could get off a field goal. Anybody who caught that game, it was back and forth. It was a great game. Two very, very potent offenses. And then sticking over on the other side, I'm going to go with 2 Raiders. I'm going to go with Nelson Aguilar, who managed to come in with 6 receptions for 88 yards and 1 touchdown. He did have a big drop, but a couple plays later made up for it with a 20-plus yard reception. Really put that team in position to stay in the game. And Derek Carr went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and outscored him in some fantasy formats, going 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw that interception at the end, which I got to admit, I was waiting. It was the Sunday night game, and I had Monday night. My matchup had Tom Brady and Cooper Kupp and a bunch of people playing in the Monday night game. So I got to admit, it had me sweating bullets a little bit.
That was a spicy matchup.
But I definitely can't complain with 3 touchdowns and 275 yards. And Derek Carr showed out in a big time matchup. They didn't win, but he definitely showed that the Raiders are a team that you do not want to overlook on your schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Raiders are definitely playing their best football. Even in a loss, they're playing the best football.
Yeah.
Nye, top performers, sir.
I'm gonna hit on some. Big Ball just pointed out. Dropping guys, and them coming back and having great weeks. Because I dropped Minkah Fitzpatrick last week. Sometimes you got to make a move, and then he shows up with 2 interceptions. It's one of those things that you really get burned up about. But shout out to Minkah Fitzpatrick with his phenomenal game against the Jaguars, collecting those 2 interceptions. I'm going to head over and give praise to a guy we have not given praise to this year. All we have done is dog him, and that is Michael Thomas, kind of rebounding and showing us that, hey, he's still a top-notch wide receiver. He's still a primetime producer. 9 catches on 12 targets, 104 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but it was good to see, a reminder that Michael Thomas is still alive and still productive. And then I'm going to head over to that Monday night game to another wide receiver that's been dogged all year.
Please tell me his last name rhymes with Scruff.
Scruff. He's been dogged all year. All I've heard is people dogging this guy. He's not, he's not a number 1 wide receiver. He's not this, he's not that. And then he puts everybody on notice and goes out and have a fantastic Monday night. I think he had 100 yards in the first half. That's my man, Cooper Kupp. One of my favorite wide receivers in the National Football League. The boy had 11 catches on 13 targets, 145 yards. Did not get in the end zone, which was supremely disappointing. I wanted to see my boy get in the end zone, but he didn't. Phenomenal game. It was good to see him remind everybody that he is a top flight talent at the wide receiver position in the National Football League. You just wish, the Rams would take advantage of his talents more often, but they were definitely on display the other night. Him and Robert Woods combined for, I think, over 100 close to 300 yards receiving. Close to 300 yards receiving. Didn't quite get there. But yeah, those 2 guys can ball out. It's good to see Cooper Kupp, remind everybody that he's still alive and productive as well. Full mention to my man Deontay Johnson, who had a phenomenal game as well. He was going to be mentioned before Cooper Kupp just really went ballistic in that first half.
Yeah, he did it against a great defense too.
He did against a really good defense. Yeah,
my man did work. Cooper Kupp, man, killing it.
Also, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 14 carries, 69 yards, very nice, but 2 scores on those 14 carries.
Yeah, that was a big question. If CH was going to be able to capitalize once they got in the red zone, it was a struggle for him in that offense early this year. I think later, late in the season, you're getting some pretty good returns if you're Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner, Helaire owner. So yeah, I'm stoked to see it. I had him earlier, traded him for Joey B. The sadness. Let's stick with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, actually, Helaire, for the Rookie Watch. We talked about having a really good game. What was crazy to me? Just watching, kind of our league activity. I've seen Le'Veon Bell dropped and signed and dropped, within the more times in the past, 2 matchups. Is Le'Veon Bell just a non-factor, fantasy factor anymore in that offense? Start with you, Nye.
I don't know. He showed up with some decent production the other night and got into the end zone. So, I mean, if you're looking for a flex play and somebody who might be able to get in the end zone and get you maybe 30 yards, I mean, that's 10 points right there, and that's a productive night, for a guy you're not really expecting a whole lot out of. So, I mean, they had a really good matchup with the Raiders defense. As much as I feel like they're improving, they still kind of have a ways to go. But going forward with their matchups, they get Tampa Bay next week, so he'll probably get a shot at getting in the end zone in a game like this. And then Denver, Miami, Indy, Atlanta, and the Chargers. So, it won't be every week, but I think, if you can be selective about your matchups with Le'Veon Bell, you might be able to get a touchdown out of it. It's good to see them get him involved. And you can kind of see them make it a point to run the ball a little bit more than they did against the Oakland Raiders the first time.
I want to make the argument that Le'Veon is still picking up the playbook because I'm seeing way too much of Darrell Williams in the 2-minute drill. But Darrell Williams isn't getting touches. So he's getting snaps. He's there in the 2-minute drill, but clearly he's not the guy who they're trying to fabricate touches for. Le'Veon's still seeing 6, 4, 7 rushes, but he's not really getting involved in the passing game. We all know Le'Veon is a talented receiver as a running back. It's something that's been touted about him for years, and they still haven't used him. They're not using Clyde in the receiving game either. So them bringing Darrell on for those 2-minute drills indicates to me that Le'Veon hasn't picked the playbook enough yet for them to trust him in those moments. And they don't want Clyde in 2-minute drills. They don't want Clyde as the receiving back. So I think that there's still room for Le'Veon to grow into a bigger role. And that's just something where you're going to see Darrell Williams' touches go down once they trust him.
And I'd like to piggyback off that. Right now, Le'Veon has a total of 42 carries this year. 19 with the Jets, 23 with the Chiefs. His lowest carry total for a full season is 113. And that was in 2015 with Pittsburgh. He's not getting anywhere near the touches to be an effective fantasy football threat. And that might be because of what Big Baller said. He might still be learning the offense, trying to figure out where he meshes not only with the running backs, but also with Mahomes and what they want him to do compared to what the Jets had, compared to what Pittsburgh had him do. But 42 carries between two teams for a full season, that's not a lot for if you're looking to start anyone at running back for your fantasy team. He doesn't have the yardage to justify keeping him. He's got 79 yards total with the Chiefs, 74 with the Jets, and he's got 1 touchdown on the year. He's at best right now a streaming play, depending on the matchup, but he's not getting the touches to make him worth playing regularly or starting him regularly in fantasy football.
Kosher Killer coming in with that fire. I know it was a hot topic earlier in the season for us. I was a CEH owner at the time. I was standing pretty hard. I stand by it. Like Big Baller, I stand by it. Nye wasn't having it, which is cool. We often have our tiffs, but it's all in good fantasy fun. One quick question. You guys, Clyde Edwards, running back 10 in our league. You think he finishes in the top 10? I'll start with you, Big Baller.
See, that's a difficult question because I got to look at his schedule.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I think. That's a tough one. He does not have the best schedule moving forward. It's a decent schedule. We got a shootout next week. I don't know that he's going to be terribly effective in that game, but Denver, then Miami, and then New Orleans. I think he does finish as a top 12 back, but running back has been a little bit difficult this season. So top 12 back, limit your expectations, but expect a guy who you can start week to week.
Yeah, I'd say he does. I mean, he has guys like Ronald Jones and Todd Gurley and James Conner trailing him. I think he finishes in that top 10.
He's impressed me so far. I'm going to say he does. I think he will stay. I think he's picking up the game flow and the game script pretty well. We know that I'm impressed that he got into the end zone twice this week. I know it'd been a while since he had a multi-touchdown game like that. I think he stays in the top 10. I think I'm seeing him progress. I think we're seeing him grow as a running back, and I think he's meshing really, really well, both with the coaching staff and also just with his offensive teammates.
Ace, let me turn this back towards you. Does Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's number 10 right now. Does he hold off number 11 on the season and finish ahead of Antonio Gibson?
Ooh,
that's a love triangle right there. He can't choose.
No, that's an entanglement right there. Bro. That's red table talk. That
is a love angle. They're not necessarily loving each other or Ace. It is a love angle here.
You know what? It's crazy because I have right now I play Clyde Edwards next week in week 12 in the matchup against Instagram, and I have him flexed Antonio Gibson against Clyde Edwards. So the irony there is just hilarious for me.
I'm gonna take Gibson in that. You got Dallas.
Yeah, but
right?
to answer your question, I'm gonna take Gibson in that. His schedule is a little more. It's just they've got Pittsburgh in week 13, San Francisco in 14, but they've been giving up some yardage this year. Seattle 15, Carolina 16. They finish with Philly, who decides when they want to show up this year playing run defense. I'm gonna go with Antonio Gibson. I've been riding with them hard. I'm a fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think Gibson somehow gets in the top 7, man. That offense is playing a lot better. They play better complementary football. They have a really good defense. They play in the NFC East. I've got Antonio Gibson. That was a great question, though. What about you? What do you think?
I got Antonio Gibson too.
Yeah,
going out
Gibson.
the rest of the season. Yeah.
I mean, Helaire has Tampa next week, Denver, Miami, New Orleans, and then he gets Atlanta and the Chargers. But those next 4 games are kind of, I think it's pretty good run defenses.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say I like Antonio Gibson's nickname, Antonio the Weapon Gibson, a lot more than CEH.
Right. I know. Somebody's got to think of something that sticks for Clyde Edwards.
Yeah, they try to give him Clyde the Glide, but you can't give him Clyde the Glide.
Why not?
Because Clyde Drexler already got the Glide.
Never gonna be as smooth as the original Glide. You can't be a part 2.
You can't give him the Glide.
It's like naming your child Junior.
And we can't call him Sweetness and call him Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Like there was one Sweetness, and that was Walter Payton, baby.
How about
Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I do like that, Kosher. You might want to get that one out there. I'm just
maybe
saying.
Work with some Kansas City bakeries. Work with Andy Reid. Get you a little something for those extra touches for CEH.
Yeah, you should trademark it.
C and H.
You should trademark it. Anyways,
Clyde, baby, Carlos Hyde, Edwards-Helaire.
Oh, stop. Shots fired. Okay, moving on. We must move on. Going from one rookie that's in their top 10 to another rookie that's just outside the top 10 at their position. Justin Jefferson had another really good game. Didn't have the targets, but made the most of his opportunity. With 18 fantasy points, he had 86 yards, 3 receptions, and a touchdown, average about 28 yards, a catch there. Justin Jefferson has been impressive. How do we think he finishes in the top 10, top 7? How we feel about it? I'll start with you, Nye.
No, I don't think he quite gets there. There's a lot of competition at wide receiver. I don't think he gets up there, but I do think, he continues this pace and it kind of stays inside that top 20, top 25 range.
I'm putting Jefferson in the top 15. So I've got him just a little bit above where Nye has him. Given all the injuries we've seen at the wide receiver position, guys like Julio Jones have gone down. Chris Godwin hasn't produced as much as we thought he would in Tampa's offense. I think you can make a real case for Jefferson being in the top 50, one of the top 15 receivers this year.
Does anybody know where Julio Jones is? He's number 28.
He's got a lot of missed games, a lot of missed time.
Yeah, he does have a lot of missed time.
I got to say, I think Justin Jefferson does finish in the top 12. And it's not because of who's behind him, but it's because of who's ahead of him right now. With Thielen missing this week and potentially missing a second week, that could drop him out of the top 12. And then you've also got Tyler Boyd, who I now expect to drop out of the top 12 with the news of Joe Burrow going down. And also ahead of him is that doublet of Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. I kind of see Robbie Anderson slowing down a lot. So if he doesn't hold up that production, like you said, Jefferson's on his heels. He's behind him by like 4 points. Jefferson has a very favorable schedule the rest of the way. Even if he does drop off this coming week, the next couple of weeks are very nice. And Allen Robinson has got the worst of quarterback situations sitting right in front of Justin Jefferson. Yeah. If nothing else, it's just too many question marks for guys who are ahead of him. Justin Jefferson, I believe, should finish inside the top 12.
I don't like his matchups against Tampa, Chicago, and New Orleans in 14, 15, and 16, which is why I don't think it'll be as strong. But he's talented enough to get there.
I was looking at Carolina and Jacksonville, And I don't know why
don't-
sleepers got to do this, but they give me the light green for Tampa Bay's matchup. It makes me think it's a better matchup than it is.
No, I mean, we just saw Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods go off. So Justin Jefferson is capable of having a big time game. But,
I mean, Tampa Bay can be ran on too, and that's what Minnesota. That's their bread and butter. If they can get that run started, there'll be some chunk yardage underneath for Justin Jefferson for sure.
To throw some respect back on Julio Jones, he's number 12 in average per game. So he's not bad this year. He just hasn't played.
He's just not. He's
just not on the field. And the best ability is availability.
Hey, that's real life. That's real life. Before we move on to pick 2, fellas, any other rookies you guys want to throw into the mix and give roses to?
Dude, CeeDee Lamb. Anybody see that? Man, that catch was ridiculous. He didn't have a great game, but that catch he had in the end zone was phenomenal.
I'll put my my long distance goggles on for this rookie watch and throw Ashton Davis's name in here real quick. He's got 2 weeks now starting. He started before the bye against New England, came out of the bye, had a really nice game against the Chargers, 12 tackles and a fumble recovery. He's got more opportunity now. He's a guy to keep an eye on. He may not merit a pickup right away, but this is the guy who produced when he was back at Cal. He was a high capital draft pick, and he does figure into the plans for the Jets. So keep an eye on him.
12 tackles. Oof,
yeah, man,
he's flying around.
Great.
People are throwing on the Jets. There are plenty of tackles to be made in that secondary.
Pick 2, fellas. Pick 2. Man, I feel like we're getting into that dicey time of the year where like you're looking at the waiver wire a whole lot differently. Things are kind of taking shape. So it's kind of a weird kind of situation when you're assessing the waiver wire. I'll just start with you, Nye. I mean, we talked about Demir Birds of the world, some of the guys that had really great weeks, more flash in the pan guys. But are you looking more towards guys that may be kind of in better situations that have been on the waiver wire a little longer? Like if there's a Sam Darnold still there, and Andy Dalton still there, there's a Keelan Cole still there.
It's getting down to that time of the year where you're trying to find that guy who's going to come through for you and give you a good week. And honestly, it's hard from week to week to kind of hone in on that guy. Honestly, I saw some signs of life. I think this time around, T.Y. Hilton might be worth a pickup this week against Tennessee. We signed it's starting to look better. That whole Colts passing offense is kind of, a hit and miss, and depending on what guy you want to start. We see Michael Pittman go off, but he recorded 3 catches and took one to the house. I think it was like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown reception. So there's not a lot to go off of there, but I do like T.Y. Hilton in this next matchup going up against Tennessee. I think it's a good play for this week.
T.Y. Hilton getting some love. That is few and far between here. If you guys been following us, man, but I mean, for good reason, man. He's kind of gone ghost this year, to be all honest.
Oh, well, let me give you my second one. And with the news that Adam Thielen might not play this weekend, and more than likely he's not going to play this weekend, so you probably want to start preparing for a game without Adam Thielen. I think Irv Smith Jr. is a guy who should be on your radar this week as kind of a supplementary pass catcher for the Minnesota Vikings. They probably should be looking to get him more involved if Adam Thielen is to miss a game. So I think he's a guy, especially at the tight end position. If you're looking for a guy, because tight end is super thin. You've been streaming tight ends, you're looking for that next guy to stream. Irv Smith Jr. If Adam Thielen does not play, is a good stream for this week.
Big baller, pick 2, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in here and call Kevin King's number. He's finally healthy. He missed about from week 5. They had to bye all the way to about, I believe it was week 10, week 11, week 10. Yeah, he's only rostered in about 4% of sleeper leagues, but this is a guy who finished last year as a top 10 defensive back with over 5 interceptions. Jair Alexander is healthy on the other end as well, so you can expect a ton of balls to be coming out this guy's way, and that's a recipe for IDP production. So if Kevin King's out in your league and you need somebody, he could be a great option for these next couple of weeks. And I'm going to go with Denzel Mims as well. In the 2 games with Flacco, he's got back-to-back games of 8 targets, and he's been getting some pretty decent yardage totals, close to about 20 yards per catch. Brashard Perriman's been the story. He's had 2 touchdowns and 1 touchdown, 3 touchdowns total, and over 20 yards per catch. But Perriman's targets have not been consistent. Mims have been. And I can see a little bit of a regression to the mean, and any regression to the mean only benefits Mims in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and trust the talent. They took this is like we've talked about a lot of the wide receivers. We've seen a lot of them be very productive, but Mims missed a lot of this season and then came into an awful situation. But it seems to finally be sorting itself out. Darnold is healthy and is a coach's decision, which kind of tells me that they're liking what they see from Flacco. He's brought some stability to that team as much as you can hope for. And that makes Mims a viable option, at least somebody you can look at if you need some production. It's been at least 10 fantasy points the last couple weeks with the potential for a little bit more. So Mims is a guy to look at if you're struggling at the wide receiver position.
Something in my intuition telling me that like there's some fruit to be found there with Jets skill positions. I mean, Rashad Perriman is probably another person to look at. He's getting healthier. You've seen him kind of look better the past couple of weeks. He does have a role on special teams too, so he gives you some upside there. Yeah, dude, love the picks.
I love them too because you mentioned one of the guys I was going to talk about.
Like they keep on bouncing back and forth between quarterbacks, and like Sam Darnold, you know, he hasn't played with these guys as much, and you know it's just it's hard because then now you have to worry about Sam Darnold having the same rapport with a Denzel Mims or with a Rashard Perriman. I like both of those guys. They've had good games. They've been productive. If you throw Sam Darnold back into that mix, now it's like, I honestly think it benefits Jamison Crowder if Sam Darnold's back in the game. But it's tough. I mean, I don't like their matchup coming up this week, but I do like the players. And with the target share that Denzel Mims is getting, I think there's something to be found there.
If you're playing like me sometimes, man, it's just like I play so much on gut, and I know there are a lot of you guys like, you've done your homework and you feel good about some of these guys. But I mean, obviously you want to be a realist at the same time. You definitely want to be a realist. You don't want to be taking chances on, too many of these Jets players. But like, I mean, sometimes you got it. Other times it's all about reading the room, reading the tea leaves. Maybe a guy like Rashad Perriman is shot in the dark. I don't know.
We just saw Denver show that you could run on Miami. So like, should we be running to the waiver wire to go snatch up Frank Gore? Final point for with these Jets receivers. I mean, after they clear Miami this week, they get Miami, which is going to be a difficult matchup. But they get Las Vegas, who's gettable in the air. They get Seattle, where the game script will probably favor a lot of passing, and their secondary is gettable. They also get the Rams, which is a tough matchup in the second round of most fantasy playoffs. But that championship game against Cleveland with Denzel Ward going down and not knowing when he's going to be back with that calf strain, it might be one of those situations where that matchup becomes a plus matchup. And if you play in a league where your championship game is week 17, we've also seen that New England secondary get got more than anticipated. So they do have kind of a nice schedule, and they're always going to be playing in that game script where they're going to have to throw the football. So there's going to be targets and catches to be made.
I was going to mention J.R. Alexander against the Bears because that is just too good of a matchup, I think, to pass up. If you're in an IDP league, he is someone worth picking up. If he's still somehow available in your leagues, pick up Cole Beasley because that man is consistent. He's been one of Buffalo's most consistent receivers, and if he's not taken, a good matchup play offensively for you to look at this week is going to be Evan Ingram, the Giants tight end, against the Bengals. He didn't get targeted a whole hell of a lot. Jones was looking more at the receivers, but the Bengals are awful against tight ends. So look for Jones to take advantage of a nice matchup there.
They're going to have to win games down the stretch. Their division is stacked. So yeah, they're going to be playing into the end. Seattle players might want to be a group of players you guys want to invest in if you've got the fantasy football playoffs in your sights. Okay, cool. Moving on. We gave you guys a lot of nuggets there. A lot of nuggets, man. I feel really good about those picks, guys. Let's keep that same energy now. And I got to mention him. I've been waiting all year. I've been waiting 2 fantasy years to mention him. My boy Taysom Hill. We talked about his game. Had a great game. It looked a little, wonky, but I mean, he put it on tape. Does he keep that same energy against Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver 1 of the Oakland Raiders all of a sudden? He had a great game with over 20 fantasy points. Got 9 targets, so he's getting the targets, 88 yards, and a touchdown. The pride of USC, actually, him and Robert Woods killed it, so that's good to see on the same week. But who do we got? Nelson Aguilar, Taysom Hill, keeping that same energy. I'll start with you, big baller.
Man, first of all, you really disrespecting Michael Pittman out here by not naming him with those USC wide receivers. Let's keep it up with.
Dang, Ronald Jones, you should have. Man,
I had a weekend.
You know what? I'm gonna actually say that both of these guys are keeping that same energy. I'm gonna break the whole damn system. I'm gonna break what we've been doing, and I'm gonna be honest. I can't say that either of them aren't. If you're asking me who's the most likely to not, I have to say Taysom because he can throw interceptions and Nelson can't. But look at what we've got coming up. Taysom Hill's getting
Nelson Aguilar, he can fumble.
Yeah, he dropped 3 passes.
Man, yeah, he does.
Eagles fans know all about Nelson Aguilar's shortcomings.
All right. So before we get into Nelson and why we shouldn't trust Nelson, let me tell you why we should. Because his next 2 games are against Atlanta and the Jets.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that.
You just made my case for me. I was looking at the matchups. I'm like, yeah, it's Aguilar. Those matchups are too tantalizing. Although Taysom does get the Falcons next week. This week he's at Denver. So
Denver and the Falcons. Denver's played a little bit better in the last 2 weeks, but that defense has been gettable. That offense doesn't do much to protect them either, and I expect the Saints defense to feast on Denver's offense. So that could be a great opportunity for Taysom. And like we said, Atlanta is what we just saw. Julio back might help, but I still see Taysom keeping the same energy. So if you're asking exactly who's the likeliest, I got a little bit side with Aguilar, but guys, my call. If you got either of these 2 guys, if you got both of these 2 guys, plug them, play them, ride those points.
I think you made great points, about the schedule and stuff. Like, he does have some tasty matchups. And shoot, I feel like this year I've been playing more matchup than any year in at least my fantasy football history. I'm gonna go with Taysom though. I like his matchups. Atlanta, Denver. Then he's got Atlanta again. Well, he had Atlanta in 11. He's got Denver next week, and then Atlanta again at 13. But I guess for the long haul, he's got some weird kind of cornerback matchups there. I don't think really favor his skill sets too much. But for the immediate future, the next 2 or 3 games, I'm going with Taysom Hill. Just to put this in some perspective, Taysom Hill's his highest finish was 34. It was in 2019. He finished quarterback 34 in sleeper. He played all 16 games. He participated in all 16 games. So far in one game, he's already 33. Does Taysom Hill sneak into the top 20?
No.
Far behind.
No. I don't think he has enough games to be able to sneak into the top 20 at this point.
Nye, who's keeping that same energy? Nelson Hands Aguilar.
All right. Well, breaking down the stats, Nelson Aguilar.
Speaking of Taysom and his hands, did you guys know that Taysom Hill has tiny hands?
He does have tiny hands.
Are you going to sit here and shame this man for tiny hands? That's like saying he has sweaty palms, man. Come on, man.
Just looking at the numbers with Nelson Aguilar, it was his highest target total since week 7, where he had 9 targets. He was able to haul in 6 receptions. In between that span, he hasn't been targeted more than 4 times or had more than 2 receptions. And if you look at his numbers from week 6, he's really been off and on. He has a bad week, he has a good week, and he has a bad week, and a good week, and a bad week. And a lot of these good weeks have just been kind of like touchdowns where, he'll get in the end zone. Last week was a very, very good week. So honestly, I'm going to go with Taysom Hill on this one. And I hate to do it to my USC brethren, Nelson Aguilar, but I'm going to go with Taysom Hill because with the outlook with Taysom Hill, I do like Nelson Aguilar's matchups. Taysom Hill does get Denver. I think what they're able to do in the running game will help Taysom Hill. They also get Atlanta after that. And quite honestly, if I'm being honest and kind of projecting forward, I don't think Drew Brees gets back to around week 15, 16. So that puts Taysom Hill in the lineup for games against Philadelphia, possibly Kansas City and Minnesota. So honestly, I feel like Taysom Hill keeps this thing going. He's a dual threat. He has a very good coach coaching him right now. I think he keeps that same energy. I think Nelson Aguilar is a fabulous football player, but honestly, Darren Waller's the guy in that passing game. And it could be anybody's game from here on out after that, after Darren Waller. I'm going with Taysom Hill to keep that same energy and rally this New Orleans Saints team to a possible position where they can get a bye.
Just the 180 with Taysom Hill, man, it just warms my heart to just get all the Taysom thrill love in. It just makes me so happy.
What encourages me about Taysom Hill is that his completion percentage. 118 for 23 was encouraging. It wasn't like a 11 for 25. He put the ball, in play.
The picks are in, and we got receipts. Y'all gonna see those receipts. All right. Well, that is going to do it for our Week 11 recap. Week 12 primer. Hey, man, we back in this, guys. We back in this. Any final words before we wrap this up? I'll start with you, Kosher.
Hey, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, so have a happy and safe one, y'all. We appreciate you listening to us. We appreciate all the feedback we get. We appreciate being able to talk football with y'all. We know it's been a really tough year. We hope that we've helped make it a little bit easier on you. So however you're celebrating this year, celebrate safely, stay healthy, stay safe.
It's getting late in the fantasy football season. You're probably going to be distracted watching the Thanksgiving games. Have a great time with that. Stay safe with family, whether you're staying at home or whether you guys are going out. Just be sure that you guys are doing what you can to keep you and your loved ones safe. And while we're at it, don't forget, as the fantasy season winds down, that IDP can still win you a week. This week, Marcus Williams with the Saints. Safety, he's got 2 picks in the last 3 weeks, and he's going up against another great matchup for interceptions, so against the Denver Broncos. So there's an option for you right there. And I'm going to call out Max XX Extra Large Crosby. He's got 3 matchups against sitting Ducks. The immobile Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, and the Phillip Rivers trifecta. Something's got to bend, something's got to break somewhere along the line. But keep your eye out, guys. Don't just take my word for who to play. Do your research, find your guys, and make sure you're setting active lineups every week.
Yeah, we got 3 games on Thursday. It's man, be selective about who you put out there on Thanksgiving. Nothing about this year has been normal. I wouldn't play a lot of my Ravens. Like if you got Marquise Brown or Willie Snead, I wouldn't play any of them outside of Lamar Jackson. And honestly, I think at this point, Lamar Jackson might be a borderline sit.
That'll definitely be a situation we monitor going forward. We have in our Dropper Shop categories here with Lamar Jackson. We've talked about Lamar Jackson ad nauseum, and we will continue to for you guys, okay?
One more thing. Play J.D. McKissick. He's gonna get the turkey leg on Thanksgiving. Watch. Turkey leg on Thanksgiving. J.D. McKissick. Right here over Jordan Howard Light.
You know what? That's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. We're back in this. We're back, like I mentioned earlier, we're back to our normal drop schedule. Thanks for bearing in with us. We do appreciate you guys coming back and checking out our channel. Like Kosher said, I think I can speak for us all. We really do hope that, we provide you guys some sort of entertainment, some sort of relief from the madness and sadness. And the ratchets, all that. Make sure you guys keep checking us out. We do appreciate it. The likes, the feedback, the comments. Send us your matchups, your sit start advice. And also, man, help us go live. It's, one of our biggest goals for this channel, and every subscription helps. So, to all our subscribers that subscribe, a share would be much appreciated, to get our sub counts up so we can go live and continue to give you guys awesome content. So for myself, for Big Baller Ed, For Kosher Killer. For Nye, that's Ian spelled backwards. We're out of here.
Ring that notification bell so I can afford to buy a real bell, and I'll ring it on the pod.
Hey. And pass the chutney. Pass the chutney. Pass the chutney.